Many years ago, a young man worked in an organization and he was being seen as somebody who had a lot of potential to become a manager in that company. He was a high potential employee. And so he was enrolled in what they called a manager in training program, an MIT program. That was a company-wide program, very structured. It lasted about 3, 4 months. And in that program, you would learn all the skills you needed, or hopefully you'd learn all the skills you needed to take the job as a manager and lead a new sales team somewhere. That young man got enrolled in the program. He was nearing completion. He was doing well. People were speaking highly of his accomplishments so far. There was no reason to believe that he wasn't going to go on to be a fantastic manager in the organization. He was about 2 weeks until finishing the program. And then one day something happened and he nearly blew it. He was given 24 hours to fix what he had done, or he would be out of the program and not be promoted. That young man was me. It was many years ago now, but I never forgot what happened. I never forgot what I learned as a result of what happened, and I'd like to tell you about it right now. I had about 2 weeks to go in the program, and they came to me and said one day, "We want you to spend the final week of your program in Denver, shadowing one of our best managers that we have in the whole company, whose name is Barb. That'll be how you complete the program. After that, you'll be up for assignment." So off to Denver I went. I was there a couple of days before Barb said to me one morning, "Today I want you to go out into the field with one of our sales representatives, our field representatives, and hang out with him for the day and then come back and we'll talk about how it went." So I did. His name was John. John and I went out into the field, did his sales calls, and I, as the hotshot, high potential, full of himself, a young management trainee, decided that I would help John, that I would manage him for that day. So when we went on his various calls, after each call I offered him some feedback. I gave it some constructive feedback, I thought. Gave him some tips, some advice, some ways I would have handled a situation differently if it were me, and so forth. And we went through the day with me carrying on like this. We got to the end of the day, went back to the office where Barb was sitting in her office, and John went in and talked to her for a few minutes, came out. Barb then motioned to me, "Come on over." I started to go in and she said, "There's a phone call for you from a fellow named Art, and it's a private call. I'll give you the office over there. You might want to take the call in private over there." Now, Art was our national sales manager. He was Barb's corporate up-the-line supervisor. So I went into the office and I thought, here it goes. I'm going to get a nice phone call from Art telling me what a great job I had done that day. And I could bask for a few more moments in that glory. Sat down, took the phone call, and the first thing Art said to me was, "What in the heck have you done? Who gave you the right? Who gave you the thought that you could go out and manage John? You're not there to do that. You're there to observe him in the field. You're there to learn from Barb on how she might handle anything that John might encounter, but you're not there to manage him. You totally blew it today. It's an error in judgment, and I'm going to give you 24 hours to fix it, to clean it up, or you're out. You're out of the program, and you will not be promoted into management." I was stunned, and he was right. I had totally overstepped my boundaries in that day, totally. So I went back to see Barb, and I apologized deeply, and said, "Barb, Art filled me in on what I did and why it was so horribly wrong for me to do that, and he's right, and I apologize. And in fact, I want to talk to John and apologize to him as well." So she allowed me to do that, and then I went back to her office and we had a conversation where we debriefed the whole day. And she said something very interesting to me, which I didn't expect. She said, "Yeah, you shouldn't have done what you did. That's clear. But," she said, "I'm taking responsibility for what happened today." I said, "What do you mean you're taking responsibility? I'm the one who went out in the field and acted like an idiot thinking I could be a manager of this young fellow." She said, I know that, and you were wrong. But here's the deal. I learned a long time ago that responsibility in a relationship is not 50-50 or 70-30 or any other proportion. She says, you know, when people get married, they often talk about their marriages being a 50-50 deal. I give my 50%, you give your 50%, together we have a full marriage. But there's a problem with that. I said, what's that? She said, well, when something goes wrong, and something will always go wrong, when it goes wrong, each of you has the notion, the thought will occur to you, I did my 50%, you didn't do yours. So I've learned to change that equation a little bit, and I now think that a successful relationship of any kind, be it a marriage or a professional relationship or client with a customer, whatever, is 100-100. That is to say, they both have full responsibility for everything that happens in that relationship. And that way, if they believe that, if they buy into that, what will happen is when something goes wrong, and something will always go wrong, when it goes wrong, they each can then frame, what are we going to do about it to fix it? How are we going to make it better? What can we do differently? Not, it's your fault, it's not my fault. It's more of a, this thing happened, and we got to figure out how to fix it. So I said, well, what could you have done to make it different? She said, let me tell you what I could have done differently. I could have set the expectations of you early in the morning before you went out in the field with John really clearly and made sure you understood them. I could have said, you're there to observe. You're not there to make sales calls. You're not there to critique John. You're simply there to observe and come back and we'll talk about what you saw. Or she said a number of other things I could have said. But in the end, I didn't say them, and you went out and you did what you did. And for that, I take full responsibility. That was an amazing insight and an amazing thing for me to learn. Here's the deal. They accepted my apology, both of them. Art did too. He said, all right, you cleaned it up. You had your 24 hours to do it. You did it. You got it. And we're going to go ahead and give you the promotion. I ended up taking over a new facility, as a matter of fact. Most importantly, though, for me was what I learned that day and that afternoon from Barb about 100% accountability. That if you're going to have a successful relationship with anybody on any level, it has to be 100-100, and you both have to assume that whatever goes wrong or goes right belongs to both of you. So it happened a long time ago. And I nearly derailed my management career before I even got it off the ground. But it didn't, and I didn't, and I remember what I learned from that to this very day. That's the story.